Hi friends, we are going to open up to our next available page in our composition notebook, and we are going to title this page Plural Nouns. Then just make sure you put it in your table of contents, and it's on page 37. All right, so on our plural nouns page, we are going to be using this page in your packet, and then we are also going to be working with this page in this page today. But this lesson is going to be spread out over a couple days, so it's not all going to be today. All three of these, you are just going to cut all the way around the outside and glue the whole thing down. There's nothing fancy about it. So I will show you. And the first page is going to be this. These are all the rules. And then the next two foldables that we have are, and actually you can cut this inside box if you want. If you want to cut the outside, you can. But all we really need is the inside box here. But the next two foldables that we'll use are just some practices. Okay, here's the first one. This is going to go on this first page that we just labeled. Glue the whole thing down. And that goes on this page. Okay, then we're going to set up the next two pages, and then we'll come back and take some notes on this. Again, the next page can have the same title, but we're going to do Plural Nouns Practice. Label that in your table of contents. And actually, you can go ahead and do the next page with the Plural Nouns Practice title also. All right, so these next two, again, just cut all the way around the outside, glue the whole thing down. This short, skinny, or this long, not short, long, skinny one, you can just cut around the outside of this inside box here. And this is going to go on the first page. I guess it doesn't matter what order these two practice pages are in. I'm just going in the order that they appear in your packet. So that's going to go right in the middle there. Just like that. And then this last one. This one you can cut inside the squiggly line or outside the squiggly lines. I'll just cut on the outside, just to make it easier. This is the third page in your packet that we're using today. This is going to go on the second plural nouns practice page. Okay, so if you need to pause this video right now just to finish setting up your 3 pages, go right ahead. Your first page should have this rules chart on there, title plural nouns. Go ahead and pause this if you need to finish this page. Second page should be the one that starts with kiss, tall skinny one, plural nouns practice. Pause this right now if you need to finish this page. Third page, plural nouns practice, the one with the squigglies. First word is dish on there. Okay, now let's flip over to the rules page. So on the rules, there are quite a few going on here. So we're going to take it little by little here and fill them out as we go along. Just flip over to mine here. All right. So plural nouns. If you have a noun that ends with an S, a CH, an SH, an X, or a Z, you're just going to add ES. Now, I'm going to list examples here, and I'll zoom in a little so you can see a little bit better. Copy down these examples. I'm going to do one for each of these endings here. So, bus turns into buses. You just add an ES. It ends with an S, add an ES. If it ends with an SH, crash turns into crashes. Now, this would be like a car crash, not acting as a verb. Okay, so it's still a noun. I know this can be either a noun or a verb depending on how you use it. Church ends with a CH, turns into churches. Just add ES at the end. Let me adjust it a little so it's not so blurry. Box turns into boxes, that ends with an X. Gas ends with an S, turns into gases. And buzz turns into buzzes. Okay, go ahead and pause this right now if you need to finish up these examples. Otherwise, pretty self-explanatory. If a word ends or a noun ends in one of these, you just add ES. Rule number 2. If you have a noun that ends with a consonant plus a Y, so let's backtrack, or actually flash forward here a little bit. Vowels. Vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. In this case, you won't have two Y's next to each other. So A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. Consonants are every other letter besides these vowels. Okay, so every other letter. I'm going to write every other letter is what this says here. So consonant plus a Y, you're going to change that Y to I and add ES. So if we have baby, B is a consonant, consonant plus a Y, we have to change, when we're making it plural to show more than one, change that I to an, or Y to an I and add ES. Family, L is a consonant, so we need to change that L, or not change the L, change the Y to an I and add ES. Memory, R is a consonant, so when we're having more than one memory, we're changing the Y to an I and adding ES. Okay. All right, pause this here if you need to finish rule number 2. Otherwise, we're going to move on to rule number 3. Rule number 3 is if you have a vowel plus a Y, so a word that ends in an AY, EY, IY, which I don't know if you'll have that, OY or UY, that might not be very common either, you're just going to add S to the end. So joy turns into, we have O, a vowel plus a Y, you just add an S at the end. Joys. Key turns into keys. Essay turns into essays. Just add an edit or an S at the end. And there's lots of different examples that we can come up with, but just putting a few down just to have those in our toolbox. All right, so pause this if you need to finish rule number 3. Otherwise, we are going to move on to rule number 4. Rule number 4 is if it ends with an F or an FE. A lot of you, now that you have seen this, and then maybe you just read this really quickly, you can probably think of quite a few words that apply to this. So if a noun ends with an F or an FE, and you're trying to show more than one of them, you're making it plural, which plural means more than one. Okay, if there's more than one of the nouns that end with an F and an FE, you're going to add an S or change the F to a V and add ES. So this is going to apply to this. This is going to apply to that. Okay, you have the word elf. That ends in an S, or I'm sorry, an F. That is actually going to be ELVES. Now, I guess I shouldn't have drawn these arrows, and I apologize for that. Not always going to apply to every every noun that ends with an F and an FE. So let's actually get rid of those. I apologize. I am so sorry. Let's look at the next one and see if it follows that or not. Cliff. Cliff actually does follow the, just add the S. Knife ends in an FE. You're going to change that F to a V. Oops, I'm trying to be talking right at the same time. And add ES. Life, same thing. Okay, go ahead and pause this right now if you need to. I apologize for all the squiggly and the mistake that I made. Go ahead and pause this if you need to, otherwise we're going to move on to rule number 5. Rule number 5, this is one that I still struggle with to this day. When I'm writing out a word that ends with a consonant plus an O, I always have to think, do I just add an S or do I just add an ES? So this one I think is actually one of the most difficult ones, believe it or not. Consonant plus an O, you have the word zero. You're going to change it to zeros and just add an ES. So consonant plus an O, consonant plus an O. You have tomatoes. Consonant plus an O, you just add an ES at the end. Same thing with potato, that would also work for this one. So if you need to finish copying down this rule, go ahead and pause this, and then we're going to move on to rule number 6. If a noun ends in a US, not super often that you'll find this, but every once in a while you will. I'll give you some maybe common ones, depending on what you use these in a context with. But if you have the word nucleus or cactus or fungus, this rule will apply. So you're going to change the US to an I. So you're going to get rid of the US at the end and just change it to an I. Nuclei, cacti, and fungi. Kind of weird, strange rules here, or I guess words and what they end up being after that. So we're done with that part right now. I'm going to add one more rule, and actually what I'm going to do is go down to the bottom here and draw an arrow from rule number 5 because it kind of plays off of that. If you have a vowel plus an O, for some reason this rule chart doesn't explain that, and you will come across that pretty often. If you have a vowel plus an O, you're just going to add S to the end. So like you have stereo or Oreo, everyone's favorite cookie. Stereos, you just add an S at the end. And Oreos, you just add an S at the end. Okay, so I added maybe 5B, we can call it. Rule number 5B. All right, now there are some common irregular plurals that when you change them from singular to plural, they don't follow these rules. I guess a lot of the ones in this category should probably fit under there too. But let's look at some of these. So these actually, they don't give you much room. We're not going to use this bottom line down here. So if you need to continue this box down to this section here for more room to write, you're more than welcome to. Okay, so some that don't follow the rules, but they still change. Man to men. Same thing with woman to woman. Child to children. They still change, but they don't follow any of the rules up here. That's what this box is. Tooth to teeth. Goose to geese. And then I'm just going to write some of the plural forms of the words over here, but you can probably figure out what the singular form is just because I'm running out of room here. Feet, from foot to feet. People from person to people. Mouse to mice, but I'm just going to write mice. And then this one's not used very often either, but ox, like the animal. If you have more than one of them, it is oxen. Doesn't follow that rule. Okay, go ahead and pause this right now if you need to. Otherwise, we're going to move on to this one that says some nouns do not change. These stay the same no matter if you're talking about one of them or more than one of them. So you can have one moose or you can have two moose. But you don't add an S at the end. Nothing changes in the middle like goose or geese down here. It just stays as moose. A lot of animals apply in this category here. Fish, you can have one fish, two fish. Deer, one deer or two deer. Sheep, one sheep or two sheep. Aircraft, which is not one that we use very often either, but you don't have aircrafts. You just have one aircraft or two aircraft. Buffalo, shrimp, salmon, and bison. And what's funny about this next one is I never really realized that this was an irregular noun or plural noun that doesn't change either way. Species. It looks plural just because of the S or the IES or the ES, depending on how you look at it, at the end, but there's actually not a singular form of that word. Like you don't get rid of IES or ES or S at the end. It's not species or species. It's species. You have one species of something or two species of something, which is kind of funny. Never thought about that before this. Okay, so what I will do is I will zoom out. I know that was kind of a lot of notes today, and this is all we're going to do today. So if you need to go back and look at this, I will zoom out a little bit. I know it's going to be really small to see. Please go ahead and pause this just to finish up some of the notes. Otherwise, that's all for today. Thank you.